As I prepare for retirement this coming July, I've decided to put together a sermon series entitled Parting Thoughts, in which I share a few things about how the path of Jesus relates to various issues or questions that people might have. A couple of the sermons will be more personal in nature, but today I want to look at how science and Christian faith relate to one another. One of my undergraduate degrees was a Bachelor of Science in Biology 40 years ago. So the intersection and the dance of science and religion has long been an interest of mine. So let's begin with this question. Are science and religion really at odds with one another? You might be surprised to find out that historically they have not been. Even the trial of Galileo and his run-in with church authorities was actually a conflict of which philosophical grounding one was to use to base one's observation and description of the universe upon. There was the Aristotelian approach. There's an approach that was influenced by Neoplatonic thought. Science was actually sponsored by the church, and scientists throughout the centuries have been moved to study the cosmos from the smallest particles to the farthest flung reaches of space because of religious faith. For example, Johannes Kepler, the 16th century mathematician and astronomer, incorporated religious arguments and reasoning into his work. And he was motivated by the religious conviction and belief that God had created the world according to an intelligible plan that is accessible through the natural light of reason. He is quoted as saying, "I was merely thinking God's thoughts after him." Since we astronomers are priests of the highest God in regard to the book of nature, it benefits us to be thoughtful, not of the glory of our minds, but rather, above all else, of the glory of God. You know, the conflict has actually come when certain politically conservative church leaders have created perceived conflicts in order to advance conservative political agendas. That's the unacknowledged but well-documented historical fact behind what some portray as the conflict between science and religion. Stephen Jay Gould famously tried to set apart two territories in which science and religion could separately work. Basically, his idea was to call a truce in the supposed war between science and religion by saying that the two looked at different phenomena and had two different approaches to looking at things, such that neither really had anything to say to one another. Science was to deal with the questions of how, and religion was to deal with why. For many people, this separation of powers works, but it doesn't actually work for me. What works for me is the main point of this sermon, that science and religion are mutually instructive. They instruct one another. They approach the phenomena of reality from different angles, employing distinct but related modes of inquiry. And each teaches the other about the ways in which the universe operates, as well as the meaning and significance of the universe, and the complexities of living our lives in that universe as citizens and heirs of that universe, as participants in that universe. You know, there's an ancient tradition in Christianity that Jesus was the incarnation of the Logos of God, the creative, ordering, structuring aspect of God's nature and being. For example, the prologue of John. This is the most famous place that you can find this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word was in the beginning with God, and all things were created, or came into being, through him. And without him, nothing was created that was created. Think about that for a moment. This idea of the Logos, the Word, as the ordering, creating principle of the entire universe, is swept up in all the various words containing ology, biology, psychology, zoology, etc. It's also found in theology, Christology. Mathematics, the word mathematics, is derived from the same Greek word that means disciple and discipline, or student. So science is the orderly study of an ordered universe that is described using what you could call the study language of mathematics. And what is also very interesting is that much of the mathematical developments that led to the age of science were developed by Muslim philosophers and mathematicians who were seeking a unified way of understanding and describing the universe that was created by the one God. So, JP21, the Path of Jesus for the 21st Century, does not consider science and religion to be at odds with one another. The spiritual path of Jesus is a path of freedom, a path of freedom to explore, to ask questions, to seek new discoveries, all in the name of the God whose incredible creativity, wisdom, and unfathomable knowing originated, undergirds, and upholds the entire universe, everywhere from quantum strings to the curvature of time and space. Therefore, following on the path of Jesus here in the 21st century, we seek to weave into the teachings of spirituality the insights, the discoveries, and the laws of science. And we then offer back to science at least the following things. One, a depth of insight into the meaning and significance of the universe, a deep morality based upon what it means to be human in the universe and to possess free will. Three, an integrated vision and articulation of human, social, and environmental wholeness. And four, insights from physics, astronomy, biology, chemistry, and so on will help expand our understanding and concept of the creative participation of God in human and universal reality. The bigger world aspect of the path of Jesus holds science and religion together in a mutual dialogue in which both cooperatively share knowledge and insights into the nature of reality and the reality of nature. Scientific research for the last 2 or more centuries has yielded dramatic and extensive knowledge and insight into the physical constitution of the universe. And our knowledge of the physical reality extends from quarks and bosons to the farthest reaches of intergalactic space. But what is the meaning and significance of that knowledge? And what is the appropriate use of all that knowledge? To what end do we probe life and all its mysteries? So one of the central contributions that religion can offer to science is an understanding of the significance of a thing. A thing in its various relationships and interrelationships has significance precisely because of those relationships. In fact, you cannot understand a thing apart from its relationships. I mean, you can't understand an electron apart from its relationship to protons and neutrons. You can't understand molecules apart from the interrelationships of their constituent atoms, nor apart from their interactions with other molecules, and so on, right up the levels of complexity in life, including human and biotic communities. Each thing, and this is the religious insight that we have to bring to science. Each thing in the world is a bearer of meaning precisely because its significance in the grand scheme of things, its place in that grand scheme, the vast network of interbeing, as Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, the interbeing of all things. And this level of significance, it's this participation, this level of meaning is as much a part of things as is their physical structures and the natural laws that describe those structures. So religion reminds us that the language of relationship is also the language of purpose. Most scientists are extremely leery of speaking of the purpose of things, precisely because that suggests perhaps a leap into metaphysics. And meaning cannot be empirically demonstrated or subjected to scientific analysis and experimentation. So if mathematics can be considered to be the formal language of scientific description, then morality and ethics together constitute the formal language of relationship. And ethics and morality are based upon the idea that things, and in particular people, are bearers of meaning and purpose, of significance. The impartiality and unbribability, you can't bribe God, which the book of Deuteronomy witnesses to, alludes to this notion of everyone and everything having significance. For example, there's a basic ethical and moral principle that people are not a means to an end. They're to be treated as ends in themselves. And they are ends precisely because they are bearers of meaning. And this meaning is realized in terms of relationship. So, what religion offers science, then, is an additional language for describing the natural world. Not only in terms of its physical structures, but additionally in terms of the significances of all the interrelationships of those physical structures internally and externally. But it also reminds scientific researchers that questions of morality, questions that ask why a particular research program is necessary or important, significant, or which inquire into the ethics of research methodologies are as necessary as are the research protocols themselves. So, meaning and morality and purpose are gifts of religion to science. Through the creative and engagement of religion with science, we can expand our understanding of what it means to be human, and how our story is inextricably bound up with the meaning and purposes with which God has endowed the entire universe. But we are not dwarfed by this universe. As Jesus once said, God's eye is on every sparrow and on each of us. Each of us is significant, and each of us has purpose and meaning. So, religion and science are not in conflict with one another. Instead, they teach each other about the way things work and interrelate, and why it all matters, and what it means for our lives. So keep studying. Keep asking questions. Keep looking around and up at the stars. Keep learning. And keep loving it all and living it all. Amen.